Hello guys, and welcome to day 12 of this full stack modern hospital management system. In day 11, or the last video that we did, we looked at signing in functionality for the user. This one here, we looked at how the user can sign in into application, the functionality, and also we also looked at with other functionality like getting all users from our database using this one here. This functionality here. Also, we looked at how you can delete a user from a database, and this, if you remember in our demonstration for application, this will be performed by admin on the admin side. And also we looked at how we can get all doctors. These were easier stuff, and rather than or more than signing, this functionality were much easier than the one for signing in. And today we are starting looking at middlewares. Inside here we create middleware so that we can protect our root. We don't want everyone who want to access our root to be able to access just like that. We want to protect them because we need to give access to the right people, or the people who have signed into application, so that they can just they can be the only one who will be accessing the root that we have, that is. So in our last video we looked at this signing in and then sending this token, signing in, and then you see here you send the user. After the user has signed in, you can send the user and the token, and now this token will be stored in local storage. So middleware will be using this token to verify if the token is correct or is valid, and then after that now they can give this person or the person who has signed in access to data, and that's how the application works most of the time. So if you haven't liked this video, kindly remember to like this video so it may reach other people. And also, if you haven't subscribed, kindly remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And also, if you feel there is somebody who can benefit from this video, you can share my videos. So without much ado, let's get into the tutorial. Now let's look at the typical functionality of middleware, or let's look at how middleware works. And in this case, I need to demonstrate using diagrams. So I'll just open here and this drawing board here. So first of all, I'll just need to give like a scenario so that you can understand more. So middleware, I need to give a scenario of when you're going to a party, and the party needs to have a ticket in order to enter to this party, that is. So just create here, this is a diagram here, and this one we say is the room where we have a party. So this is party here. Let's add here a text, just say party, and again what you require here is now you need to have a ticket in order for you to enter. So I'll just draw this arrow symboling entering, that is, and here also I'll just add here like an exit. Okay, I can just add an exit here, and or I can just remove it and then add a text and say this is an exit here. So this is an entrance here, so let me add a text here, entrance here. So for this party, now they need to have a person who will be looking at these tickets, if they are valid, and if they have, or if you have a ticket. So you need to have a security, so you need to have somebody who will be blocking every person looking at the tickets. So now here we have our security. Let me add here security. So this is a security here, so our security guard, so to say that is. So now we have a security here, and this security guard will be able to look at the ticket, and if you have ticket, and also if that ticket is valid, and then if that ticket, you have a ticket and ticket is valid, then you'll be able to get into entrance. Another thing is that this security can request other like other stuff, like maybe if you have a bug, because maybe in the party they don't want other people to hide other things like dangerous weapon, something of the sort, and then these things will be passed by security in exit, so that when the party ends you can correct your things at exit. So that's the same thing with middleware. So we can call our security here, this one. Actually I can draw down here now, so I just call this here our middleware. So this one we'll call it a middleware. Just want to give the same here. So this is our middleware, and our middleware in this scenario is our security guard. So we have to have this middleware here, and then we have our backend here, because this is now our backend where we do a lot of stuff like adding the user to database or getting all users from the database. So in here now we can add a text, or this is the text here. So this is our backend, which consists of, this is our backend, and in here you can do CRUD operations, that is. So what happens is that now when you want to access the data from our backend, let me draw this arrow. So this is you requesting the data from a backend. So this middleware here must check if you have a token. In this case here, this is a token. Let me add here token, and here in our real life situation or story or scenario, this is a ticket that you require here. So if you have a token and it is valid, then middleware will allow you to access the root or to access the backend and do other operations. But if you don't have that token or it is not valid, then it means that you won't be able to access our backend. So that's the typical case scenario of this middleware here. I'm hoping that you are understanding, but we are going to do that in a practical way. So first thing, so in here in our middleware, let's create here a middleware, and we'll call it verify token, because it will be verifying token for us. So verify token.ts, and first thing first, now we can start coding here from here. So import here .env, and before I forget, let me explain another thing is that this token you get when you are signing in. So when you are signing in, you don't need to have a token. So that's when you sign in, you get the token, and then that token will be the one that will be used to will be checked when you want to access other routes, in order to know if you have signed in into the application. So let's go back here. So we just get .env from .env .env, just like that. And again, another thing is that we import JWT, because we want to verify our token. So verify JW, or just get from JSON web token, just like that. And another thing is that now we can import, or we can just say .env.config, just something like this one here. So .config. So now the other thing we need to do is to create now the functionality for verifying our token. So first things first, so we need to say export const, and this one we call it verify token. You just need to use camel case, verify token. And in here, in our verify token here, we need now 3 arguments, and the first one is also a request, and the type is request from express. So this one here, request, and again we need to have response, and this response here will be coming from express also. response, and I don't see this one here. So now we need another one here, and this one is next. And if you have used Express, you know the next here, and this one will allow to get or to go forward to other things. So it will allow to just go to the other routes or something of the sort, but we see how it works. So now we need to give this as an arrow function. So we can start here now to code our functionality. So the first thing inside here, or what you require here, is now to just first of all try catch, because we can have an error. So the first thing that you need to do here, because remember we just passed the token from our header, so we just need to say const and then token, and we can say is equals to request. So since we'll be passing our token through header, we just add the headers, and then we can just access the key that is will be the token. We just pass this a token using a key called token, and this one will just type and say it is string, because we are using this we are using TypeScript, that is. So now we need to look if the token doesn't exist. So to look, we just say exclamation, and then if token doesn't exist, what we'll do, we return, and we say res.json, and then we send a message, and we tell our user that they are not authenticated. So because if you don't have token, that means that you have not authenticated, and when you're signing in, remember, that's when you get this token, and that token is the one that you are using to access now the other routes. So now the first thing, or here, what we need to do is add you are not authenticated. This is the message that we'll send. You are not authenticated. You can add and say please sign in or something of the sort. So meaning if now you have a token, now the other thing is to verify, because you need to verify if that token is valid. So const, because somebody can send a token but is not valid. So we just say const, and then we say JWT, and then verify, something of the sort. And when you verify, you'll get a data. But what do we need in order to verify our token? So the first thing that we need is the token that we got from the header, and then we need to key. We need the key that we saved in our .env. So in here, we need this key here. Remember, we have a key here. This one is the one that we are using to verify. And now the other thing, now we have these two, and we have another, or we just type this and say as, because we need to have we need to type, because if you hover over this, you can see it is telling us the process.env property returns an object containing the user environment. So you can do that, but we need to type this type here. So what we need to do is we can just come here and type and say a string, just like that. So it can be as simple as that. And if now we need to just we need to give this information and to pass that information or this data into other routes, so that we can get the data in the other routes. So what we can do, and if we have verified and then we get the data, first thing that we can do is that we can say if now we have data, and now we can move to next. We can move to the next route, but we call this next function here. But I don't want that. First of all, let us first of all get the data, and then we just add that data, or we need to pass that data to our request info, and this request we just create this info. Remember, the request doesn't have info, but we want to create for ourselves this info, and we'll say data here. So now we can just give it like that. And so now inside here, what we can do, actually we can send, or we can return a response that we just add this, and then we can say that a message or an error, and now what we can do is that we can say something went wrong, and I like to use status code. So let us give a status code of, let's say, 500, meaning this is coming from our backend or something of the sort. And now that what we can do, and now after that, now everything, now the other thing that we can do is just to call next here. So we need to call next here because we want to move to the other route, because this one is just for checking, and then you need now to give access to the other routes. But you can see here, since request doesn't have info here, or the request doesn't have an info, but it has something like headers and body, it doesn't have this info. We need to add for ourselves. So we need to get this data. So we need to know this data, how this data will look like. And so first thing first, what we need to do now, we'll just come here and create an interface. So let me close this, and you can close this and this and this. So now inside here, let's create an interface, because we are using TypeScript. So interfaces, let me call interfaces. And now inside here, I can call this data. Okay, let me call this data.ts, because it's an interface. So the data that we'll get, or need to, this data that we'll get here, we need to type it, and to show, I just want to show you how it will look like. So first thing first, the first thing that we need, so we just come here, and the data that we have, so first of all, let me have export and then interface, and now we call this data, and this one will be given us by when we verify the token. So actually it is like this. So the first thing that we'll have is role, because this one will be we stored it in our when we were signing in. Let me show you. So this data that we stored in our token is the one that we'll be getting when we verify the token. So inside here, come in assigning. When you are signing in, you can see here we are storing this data here. You can see we have signing in, and then when you are signing in, you give this user, and this user is an object that has role, name, ID, and email. So those are how the data looks like. So inside here in our data, we can have the role, and then we have name, which is a string, and then we have other thing like an ID, which is a number. Remember that one will be coming from our database. We have an email, and this one is a string, and again we need to have IAT, and this one will be a number. And actually I don't know what I18 means. And then we'll have this expired or expiry date, and this one also will be a number. So just like that, so that will be okay. So inside here now, I want to create an interface that we call it extended. So inside here, what we need to do is just create an interface here, and we say extended, and will come from, or extended extends, because we are extending from another interface, or this is like inheritance. So this one will be extending from the data here. So extend from, it's just a request. It will just extend from the request. And now again, the other thing now, what we can do here, we just say, now this extended will have info. We'll have this data called info, and to just show it is an optional, we need to give that exclamation mark there. So inside here now, we just give a data, this one from interface, so something like that. So now instead of now having this type of request as request, because request doesn't have info, so we have added another type, info. And in here in extended, now it can have all the types in the request, like request and response, next, everything, or next function, and then it will have info. And now we can use that info here in our request. So this one we call it extended now. So just something like that, and now it should remove our error if we have, because now we have just copy. And you can see now we have also, we have this one here. So now let me see where problem is, because it should have eliminated the error by now. So now the other thing that we can do now here is, now we can say as data, something of the sort. Yeah, so to type that as, because now to give this data, it means that we can assign this request.info as the data, just like that. So now I hope you're understanding what I have done here. And remember, I'll be having the link to the code in our description so that you can go through it. It's something that is very, very simple. And this is, now we have our verify token. Then we first of all format our code to remove some extra spaces. So now we have created this, and to just explain within a very short period, you can see here we have this token. The first thing that we do is to look if our headers, request.headers, because we send the token through headers, if we have a token. And now you can see if we don't have a token, we send this message, you are not authenticated. But if you have you have a token, then you need to verify. And when you're verifying, you need to give this JWT verify function a token and a key that you use to sign in. You use to sign your token when you are signing in. So after that, now it should give you a data, so this data here. And then what you need to do is to just use this request.info, and now you can give this request a type of another property that is info, and then assign that data. So in our other routes, now we can have request.info, since now after you have signed in, we have come here and we added that info, which doesn't exist in request, but in our scenario here we have added. So now that's all. So now to use this verify token, so every time you need to access the route, you need to protect that route. For example, here, when somebody want to create diagnosis, so meaning this is like a doctor, you need to add here verify token here as a middleware or a security. So let me first of all just have a space here. So we just say verify token, and you can see we are not getting it here. So let me first of all try and import it. So verify token, you can see it here. You can see it has been imported. So you can cut it there and add it here. So every time we want to access this route here, it will be checking for a token and see if we have a token, or this means that it looks to see if we can, or we have signed in that application, so that it doesn't give an access to somebody who would have not signed in the application. So that's the feature that I wanted to add there. So now we can continue with other things. I'm hoping that you're understanding that, and if you're not understanding, then you can email me direct. My email is just there in my channel. And again, another thing is, now you can just comment in your you can comment, and I'll see that and I will explain more. So now the other thing now we need to look is the controllers for other things, like let's say appointment here, because we need to have other functionality for appointment here. So in our appointment, we need to have a functionality for creating appointment. So inside here, so I already created this function here. So inside here is just only to get the data and then save it in our database. So let's come here. So let me up here. So so the first thing here we need to get is the data from our front end. So we have patient name, just like that, patient name. Another thing that we need to have is doctor email, because this is appointment, doctor email. And then we need to have another thing like date, and then patient, we need to have a patient email, just like that. And then this one will be coming from request.body, just like that. This one is coming from request body.body. And now the other thing is now you need to add try catch here. And now inside here we can continue with other things, like now we need to save. So I'll say await and then db.exec. So the first thing, because we are using stop procedure, now we need to add the name for stop procedure, and we call that add appointment. And now we need to add the data here. So if you look at our stop procedures, so to see the stop procedure for adding appointment, you can come here and look for add appointment. So to add appointment, let's look here. So add appointment, you can see we have add appointment here as our stop procedure. So now inside here we can now give this data here. So we need to give it patient name, so something of the sort. We need to give it doctor email. Okay, this should have a comma here. So we have doctor email here. So doctor email, and again we need to add date and patient email, so something of the sort now. And that is now we have completed that. So after that, now we just say test.status, and because we have created, we need to have a status scope of 201, and then we can send a message here and say message, and our message will say appointment added successfully, or anything that you want to add, so long as it makes sense. So in here now we can say res.status, and then we can say 500, and then we can add JSON. Here we need to give a message that says here something went wrong, something of the sort. So now that's all that I wanted to add there. So the other thing, I think now here I don't think we'll have this get appointment, or we'll just check if we need to get all the appointments here. So what we can do is to just check if we have that for getting appointment. So let's see, in our appointment we have stop procedure for add appointment, and then check appointment, and then update appointment. So this one here will be used by our background services, because that is one that we'll be starting to code in the next video. So think we need this get appointments by now, but you can add that as your functionality. So we need to go to our diagnosis here and start adding now functionality for creating diagnosis or treatment, that is. So in here, first thing first, we need to import connection. So we need to have this connection, and this one will be from connections here, and then we just create an instance. So we just say const and then db, which is equals to new connection, just like that, as simple as that. And again, now the other thing that we require here is to create this now, create diagnosis here. And now the first thing, as you know, is to just get the data that we'll add in our database or from our front end, and then save it in our database. So this data that we are getting from request.body, we are sending it through request.body. So in here, the first thing that we need to have here, we need to have the name of the treatment, name treatment, I called it that way, or we need to get it just like that. So we need to have drug administered, need to have drug that was administered. Another thing is that we need to have doctor name. This information will be coming from the doctor, and we need to have patient email. So patient email. And another information that we need is a bill here and the date. So, and the other thing is that if it is paid, and the description of the treatment. And the other thing that we need to have is patient status, because we need to know the status of the patient when the user or the doctor was adding that treatment. So after that, now we can try catch here, so you know. So in here now, the first thing that we need to do is to await. And right now, you know, we are using stop procedure. So you can see here await is giving us error because we don't have a sync here. So add a sync. And now inside here we need to have the add diagnosis. We call a stop procedure for creating diagnosis or treatment to our database, add diagnosis. So we need to add the data that we need to save in our database. And first thing is name of the treatment, and then drug administered here, doctor, and then doctor name. I think that's, yeah, doctor name. So doctor name, and then we need to have patient email, and again we need to have bill, we need to have date, we have to have paid, if it is paid, description, and the other thing is patient status, just like that. So that's all that we need to have. So let me first of all format, and you can see here I've added that. So if it is have been saved, now you can send a message. So here 201, and we can say that JSON, and in here can have a message, and the message will say diagnosis or treatment. Diagnosis has been added successfully, just like that. So that's all. And inside here now you can have a res.status, you can have 500, and then say JSON, and in here now we can say message. This time we say actually this is an error, so an error, and we can say something went wrong, something of the sort. So that's all. Let me format again. So because I'm creating a lot of spaces, unnecessary spaces. So now the other functionality that we need in our diagnosis is to update. So we can have const or export and then update, const and then update diagnosis just like that. And we can have this as a function. So we can have request, and this one is request here, then is a response, and this response is here, and this one is an arrow function. So we add that. So now inside here, first thing that we need to do is to get the ID, and to get the ID we'll use request params. So we need to have request handler here, this one here, and this request handler here, we give it an ID using generics. This generic, so we have an ID here and we give it as type of string. So this one here, now we can get now the ID. We can have const ID, and this one is coming from request.params.id, something of the sort. So now the other thing that we need to do, since we have an ID, is to try catch. So when you are trying and we try, what we need to do is to await. You can see it will give us error, so we need to add here async. And again here we need to give a stop procedure like tb.exec, and then another thing is that we need to update diagnosis and or to update diagnosis, and then this is the stop procedure. And the other thing that we need to do, because we have this update diagnosis, is to give the ID, because you need to know which ID that you want to update, that is something of the sort. So another thing that we need to add is here we need to have test.status, and in here we need to have this 200. So this one here, what we can do, we can say JSON, and this one can give it 201, and then in here we can add a message, and this message will say diagnosis updated, diagnosis updated successfully. Have bunch of misspell, but don't worry. Diagnosis, yeah, something like that. So in here now we can say res.status 500.json, and in here now we can send an error, and we can say the error is, we say something went wrong, because that is the error that we can't handle. So that's what we can do there. So now remember, if the user sign in, we need to show that user that we have this data, or we have this diagnosis that has been done for you. So what we can do, we have a functionality here, and this one is for getting the diagnosis for user, something of the sort. And this one now here is have a request, and this one is coming from request type, and have response, and this time this also is a response, something of the sort, and it is an arrow function. So now add that. So inside here we need now to add the functionality. So what we need to have is we get an email from our front end, and again this one will come from request.body. Sorry for that. So request.body, and in here now we can try, remember, try catch here, and inside here try catch. First thing first that we need to have is we need to say const diagnosis, and this diagnosis is for certain user that we are specifying the email for them. So you just say await, and you can see it is giving us error because we haven't added a sync here. So, and now we can say db.exec, and exec inside here we need to call this store procedure get diagnosis here, diagnosis, call this diagnosis for user, something of the sort, or patient, that is. So if we now do that, we need to give it an email because it need to check all the diagnosis that has this email, so that it returns to the user, and now user can track the treatment that they are getting from this hospital. So the other thing now is that we can now send this diagnosis, can say rest status, and then 200, and it is JSON. And in here now we can just type this diagnosis, and actually there is something that I forgot. We need to get the record set here, so something of the sort, and you can see it has added another await here, but that's doesn't have to worry you, it's okay. So now the other thing is that we need to have rest.status here, and this time we give 500, and we can give JSON, and we can give this JSON a message of, let's say, something went wrong, an error actually. So it is an error here. You can give an error, and you can say something went wrong, something of the sort. So now let me save, format. Okay, so now we have all the functionality that I can require here, that I can require in diagnosis. But if you feel like you can add other functionality, feel free to do so. So now the other thing is that we can go to our patient here. So the first thing first, inside here, what we can have is that we can have this functionality for creating a patient. So to create a patient inside here, first thing that we require is to get the data that we save this patient, and this one is for admission. So this data will come from our reception when the patient is being administered or admissioned or something of the sort. So we need to have name, resident area, something of the sort, and we need to have room admitted, and again we need to have admission number, we need to have ID number, and here, and then we need to have an email, something of the sort. And now inside here we can have request.body, something of the sort. So now after that, what we need to do is try catch, something of the sort. And now from here now we can say await, and this time is db.exec. Actually this one here, let me first of all I call connection, can see it here. So you can say const db is equals to new connection, as in instance, that is. So after that now you can say await, and then db.exec, and now the other thing we can do is to add app store procedure, like add patient, because we have this one here for to admission patient. So we can add a sync here in order to eliminate that error. So now this one here, you need to give the data. The first thing is the name, the resident area, room admitted, admission number, ID number, and email, something of the sort. Now, so inside there we can have those. So, and now we can have res.status, and here we can add 200 or 201, and we can give a message here, that is message. Let me remove this and add as a message, which we will say that patient added successfully, something of the sort. Now inside here we can say res.status, and we can have 200, 500, and then say JSON, and we can have a message or an error as usual. Something went wrong, something of the sort. So now let's format, because I want to eliminate a lot of spaces. So we can have the second functionality, and that is to delete the patient, and we can say export const to delete the patient, So in here you can have this as a function, and actually is a sync, remember. So you can have request, and this one is request here, and we can have response, this one is response here. So this one here we can have that. So inside here now we can get the ID, and to get that ID we need to use the request handler. So request handler, you can see it here, and inside the generic here we can have this an object here, and say ID and then string. So inside here now, first thing we need to get an const ID, and it will have a request dot, we'll get it from request dot params dot ID, something of the sort. So inside here we can say try catch, something of the sort. So, and inside here now we can say await db dot exec, and now inside here what we can do, we can call the store procedure delete patient, and give it an ID as input now. So that's all. And now here we can send a message, res.status, and then we can say to one, and then .json, and there's a message here, and we'll just say your patient has been deleted successfully, something of the sort. So like that, and again, so now you can see that here. So that's all we can do there. Now here we can say res.status, and now here we can specify 500, and then JSON, and inside here we can say message, and this message here actually is an error, and we can say something went wrong, like that. Now let me format, so we can format that. So you need to have another functionality, and this one is for updating the patient. So to update the patient, we need to have export const, and then we say update patient like that. And because we require the ID, you need to have this, and I'll just copy it the way it is. So copy it in order rather than typing everything. So I need to have a sync, and in here now we can have this one here. So inside here we can have request, and this is one is coming from request. Here request something of the sort, and then response, it is coming from response, something of the sort. Now so now inside here what we need to do is to access the ID. So we need to have ID, and is coming from request dot params here dot ID, something of the sort, and that's okay. So now the other thing that we need to get is status, because we are updating the status. So we can get status here. Status that will be coming from request.body here. So the other thing is that we can have try catch, something of the sort. So inside here we can have await db.exec, and inside here we can have update patient here, and inside here now actually that is a store procedure, and this store procedure require two arguments. The first one is ID and the second one is status, so something like that. Now so after we have updated now, so what we can do is to just send the message, and we can say res.status, and this one we can give to 1, and then say JSON, and this time now we can add a message, or we can send a message, and this message we will add is that patient has been updated successfully, something like that. So now that's all that I want to add there. So inside here we can have res.status 500, and then we can do JSON, and this one JSON here we can send a message error, that is error, and we can say something went wrong, something of the sort, something went wrong. So now those are functionalities that I want to add here. I think we can have one other functionality, and that functionality is for getting our patients. So because doctor will need to get all patient where he can search, and deception also can get all the patient, so that they can also research, they can search, that is, sorry. So now we need to have this here. We need to add export const, and then get patients here. So this one is async, and we have requests, that is have a type of request here, request, and we have response, it is coming from response there, and then we can have this one here. So inside here now we can say try catch. So inside here now, to get our patient we need to const patients, and it is coming from await db dot the store procedure, we called it get all this, it is get all patient, get all patients, something of the sort. And now we can add record set here, something of the sort, and now we can just send this information now. Let's do status, and we can have 200 and say JSON, So inside here we can have a message here, and this one we'll call it or we just send the message or the patients, that is something of the sort. So inside here now we can say res.status. Yes, so status, and then we can have 500 and add JSON here. We can have now something went wrong, so I have included all those, and I'm feeling like this video has gotten to 1 hour and it is long. So what we'll do, we'll just stop here, and tomorrow we just start working on background services that will be scheduling for emails and creating reports, so that now we start on integration. So another thing that we'll do tomorrow, or day 13, is that we'll add now the roots here, because you can see we don't have all roots added here. So this one here, we need to add the roots. We need to add the roots here. So that's what we'll do tomorrow, and I think that will be okay for us. So let's do that tomorrow. And again, remember, if you haven't liked this video, like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Have a great day, guys.